Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhi Tamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. We are now seeing the first sutra of the Brahma Sutras. The first sutra of the first adhikarana of the first pada of the first chapter of the Brahma Sutras, and Shankaracharya's commentary on it. So last time, day before yesterday, we saw how the objection by the opponent party, that is Purva Paksha, is if this Brahman, which you are saying is the object of the desire to know, Jignasa, is the desire to know. And you are saying, you Advaita Vedanti, is saying that the desire to know is the desire to know Brahman. The object of the desire to know is Brahman. If that is the case, then what is this Brahman? And if Brahman is known, well known, then there is no need to know it. And if it is not known, then how are you going to now suddenly discover it? That is the question. And for that, Shankaracharya gives the answer that no, it is well known. Brahman is well known. It is experienced as the self of everyone. Everyone experiences it as the self. Pratyak, indwelling self. Pratyak Atman. Everybody experiences it. Now the objection again comes. So that means the first question is still unanswered. If Brahman then is known, then what is the point of again trying to know it? So it cannot be the object of desire to know, because it's something which is well known. You are saying that it is known by everyone. If that is the case, why should we again know it? Not necessary, it is redundant. It is redundant. So it's a futile exercise you are telling, because already we know what is Brahman, and we are all very busy people. We don't want to spend time in knowing what we already know. So the objection is, again, means it is, earlier objection is recalled. The objection is yadi, if, tarhi, in that case. Tarhi means then, in that case, loke brahma atmatvena prasiddham asti. Among people in the world, loke, Brahman, atmatvena prasiddham asti. Atmatvena, through one's own self, Brahman is well known, prasiddham asti. Tataha, then or in that case, jnatameva iti, because it is already known, ajignasyatvam punaha apannam. So because it is already known, ajignasyatvam, it's being not an object of the desire to know. Jignasyatvam means the state of being the object of desire to know. And ajignasyatvam means it being not the object of desire to know. So if it is already well known through the self, then it is no more the object of the desire to know, because it's already known. So how can you call it to be an object of the desire to know? It is not. So let us not confuse. And so punar apannam, punaha means again, apannam applicable. It being not the object of the desire to know is again applicable. So here Shankaracharya says, no, it's not so simple. It is not either or. There is some gray area here. There are some areas of confusion here. And that is why, though we perceive or experience this Brahman through the self, but we are not sure about it. There is suspicion or doubt. Doubt is the greatest problem in our lives. Whatever we do or don't do is driven by belief or doubt, or if you can say this other in another manner, it is driven by doubt or the absence of doubt. Most of the things we either do or don't do because of doubt, suspicion. Most inquiries are also started, investigations, research is started because of, again, suspicion, doubt. So doubt is not a thing which has to be taken lightly. And that is why in the Gita, Shri Krishna will say, Samshayatma vinashyati. One who doubts, there the idea is one who doubts oneself, one's own existence. Vinashyati is destroyed. So doubt is a big factor which impels us to do things. And we should remember that. Philosophy, for example, is filled with various questions of doubt. Suspicion is injected into people. And then different schools of philosophies are born. There is a trinity of suspicion or triumvirate of suspicion in Western philosophy. Three people are considered to be the masters of doubt. One is Karl Marx. So doubt. So there the economic things are doubted. And then comes Sigmund Freud. Their psychological things are doubted. Doubt. And then comes Friedrich Nietzsche. There the things of belief are doubted. So all these thinkers, they injected doubt in a person. So whether that was good or bad is a different debate. The point is, doubt creates inquiry, leads to inquiry. And even in the case of the inquiry of Brahman, it is because we are not convinced about the existence of Brahman that we have to inquire Brahman. Were we convinced of the existence of Brahman, no such inquiry was necessary. That is what Shankaracharya will now say. Because the Purva Paksha is saying that if this is known, then why are we trying to know something which is already known? So it is not jigyasya. It is not an object of the desire to know. It is not the object of jigyasa. Shankaracharya says, no, it's not like that. No, it is not like that. Tad vishesham prati vipratipatte. That is, there is vipratipatte. Vipratipatte in plural means vipratipatti means conflicting view. Vipratipatte means conflicting views. Tat vishesham prati. Tad vishesham prati. Prati regarding its particular nature. What's particular nature of what? Brahman. Brahman's particular nature. What is the nature of Brahman? About that, there are differing contradictory views, conflicting views are there. And so, though people experience Brahman, and it is well known, Brahman is well known among people by their own self, but it is true nature. What is it actually? That people are confused. Sri Ramakrishna says, it is like a chameleon. One person says that it is yellow. Another person says it is green. Another person says it is some other color. And there is a huge argument. No, this creature is of this color. Other fellow says, no, this color. Then they go to a person who is sitting in the shade of the tree. Below the tree, that person is sitting. What he's doing, Sri Ramakrishna is not telling. But anyway, he's sitting there and he has no other work than to observe this chameleon's colors. because one might imagine, what is this fellow doing whole day sitting and seeing what chameleon, which color? Means he has a lot of free time anyway, and he is observing. And so they ask, what is this creature's color? And then he says, all of you are true, but it has got, sometimes it has no color also, it has got. Huh? And some other color also he has got. Oh, like that. So Sri Ramakrishna tells that in the context of how God is seen differently by different people, and God is beyond all those things. God is all those things and much beyond that. Similarly, Brahman, which is a different way of looking at God, Brahman is also like that. Brahman is like that. We can extend that illustration of Sri Ramakrishna. It means that Brahman is like that. Some people have, there are different views about Brahman. People have different views about it. And so there's this confusion. And that is why that nature of Brahman, like the nature of chameleon, true, what is its true nature? That people are not clear about. And so we need to know. That means the desire to know Brahman should be there. And so it is very much the object of the desire to know. He says, Deha matram chaitanya vishishtam atma iti prakritaha janaha laukayatikaha cha pratipannaha. Deha matram chaitanya vishishtam atma iti. So prakritaha means ordinary people. Ordinary people. Ordinary people means people who have not got the knowledge of Brahman, means who have not experienced Brahman. In that sense, ordinary people. Because nobody wants to become ordinary, you see. Everybody wants to become extraordinary. If you ask that you are an ordinary person, means they will get angry. Huh? I am not ordinary. I am not ordinary. I have a Twitter handle and I keep on tweeting. Whatever great people I go, and because in Twitter you can do that. You go and you just tweet. Somebody has put some post, Narendra Modi has put some post and you just go and like it. Or Joe Biden has put some post, you go and like it. Then you can say, you see, I replied to Joe Biden. Whether he read it or not is not the point. You replied, that's all. So I'm very happy. So I am not an ordinary person. I'm an extraordinary person. Everybody wants to become an extraordinary person. That is why I clarify what is the meaning of ordinary here. Prakritaha janaha means people who are not very much bothered about the knowledge of the ultimate reality. They're not bothered. They're prakritaha janaha means they are just like primitive people. Now you may say, oh, primitive people. We are not like that. They're all those cave people. No. Primitive people means people who are generally satisfied with ahara, nidra, maithuna. They are satisfied with roti, kapda or makan, food, shelter and clothing. Interestingly, the acronym, if you were to put an acronym of roti, kapda or makan, this I have told elsewhere also, is RKM. Ramakrishna Mission is also RKM. Though Ramakrishna Mission might support the means of subsistence for many people, but that is not the only goal of the organization, you all know. So this RKM, roti, kapda or makan, ahara, nidra, maithuna. If this is prakritaha, this is primal or primeval, primitive kind of living. So those people who are not very much bothered about spirituality and all that, they have other teas. They'll say, why spirituality? We have lemon tea, ginger tea, healthy tea, herbal tea, green tea, so many teas. Why another tea add? Spirituality we don't want. So those people, what they think, along with them, laukayatika. Laukayatikaha means lokayata. Lokayata. The philosophy of lokayata means Charvaka philosophy. Loka ayata means the philosophy which pertains to the world. And Charuvaka, we all know, means beautiful speech, sweet speech. So that people who belong to that philosophy, what do they say? Deha matram chaitanya vishishtam. Body alone accompanied with consciousness. body accompanied with consciousness. That is a sentient body, a body which can respond. That is Atma. So what is self? Self is nothing but body which is conscious. Conscious means here what? Not Satchit Ananda and all that. Because when the body dies, this consciousness also goes away. So it's a sentience, means it can respond. It can respond to stimuli, etc. It is sentient. It can know things. It has sense. So that body coupled with the special feature of having sentience or consciousness, that is Atma iti. Those people pratipannaha, they think or they believe or they conceive this thought, pratipannaha, that Atma means what? Body which is conscious. The conscious body. And some other people, iti apare. Apare means some other people. Indriyani eva chetanani atma iti apare. So there are, among materialistics, there are two groups of people. Materialists, that is Charvaka. In that, two groups of people are there. One, they say Indriyani eva chetanani atma. Conscious sense organs are, that is what is Atma. Conscious sense organs are Atma. That is Atma. That is the self. Iti apare. There are these people. That means they are Indriya Atmavadi. That means they are those people who Vadi, who claim or who argue or who hold that Indriyas, sense organs, are Atma. Indriyani eva, sense organs alone are Atma. So they say that sense organs alone are Atma. Now, manahiti anye. Manaha iti anye. There are some other people who claim that mind is Atma. Because mind is Atma, why? Because sense organs are controlled by mind. So mind is Atma. Some people argue. Both these groups belong to materialists or Charvaka or Lokayatika. Both these groups belong to Lokayatika, materialists. Some other people, they believe Vijnana Matram Kshanikam iti eke. There are some other people who believe that Vijnana Matram Kshanikam, this Atma is nothing but momentary cognition. Vijnana means here cognition. And Kshanikam means it is only for a Shana. It's only for a moment. Momentary cognition is what is Atman. Some people believe like that. So who are these people who believe like this? They are a school of Buddhists. They are called Yogachara. Yogachara school, or also called Vijnanavadins. Vijnanavadis. They believe that Kshanikam, the momentary cognition. So what do Vijnanavadins believe? They believe that this whole universe is but a series of disjointed cognitions. These cognitions are not connected to one another. One cognition arises, it goes away, another cognition comes, that goes away. That is why Kshanika Vada, they are also called Kshanika Vadins, means it is momentary. So everything you see in this world is only for that moment. So if I see a plant for say 1 hour, why should I see a plant for 1 hour? Maybe I'm like that person who was sitting under the tree, seeing the chameleon changing colors. Some people have no work, so they will see what is there. So if I see a plant for 1 hour, then according to these people, I am seeing the plant only for one moment. And the next moment I'm seeing it differently. So every moment my cognition or knowledge of the plant is changing. That is what Vijnanavad is. It's a different kind of philosophy, a Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist Yogachara philosophy, Yogachara school of Buddhism. So Vijnana Matram. So what happens? This entire universe becomes a series of unconnected or disjointed or disconnected cognition. like bubbles. One cognition is coming, then it is going. Of the same object, cognitions are coming at different times. Then shunyam iti apare. Some other people think that it is shunya. Now, this shunya has been defined to mean void by Shankaracharya. But if you go strictly by Buddhist philosophy, it is not void. It is much like how we Advaita Vedantins define Maya. You cannot say it is not there. You cannot say it is there. So it is neither unreal nor real. It is inexplicable. Anirvachaniya. Shankaracharya says in this Viveka Chodamani, it is anirvachaniya. It cannot be explained. Swamiji says it's a statement of facts. So it is just that it's a statement of facts. It has got no more meaning than that. So that is how we explain Ajnana, Adhyasa, Avidya and Maya. That is what is explained as Shunya by the Buddhists. But Shankaracharya, I don't think he did not know that. He was a great intellectual among other things. He was an incarnation. He was a great prophet, etc. But he was a great intellectual. So he definitely knew that. But in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and elsewhere, Shankaracharya counters the Shunyavadi school, Shunyavada school of Buddhism, saying that everything is void. Then who says that there is void? So because there is nobody to say that there is void. If everything is void, then there should be somebody who is witnessing that everything is void. If I have to see this laptop, then I am using a laptop. So if I have to see a laptop, then I have to be here as the witness to see the laptop. Otherwise, who says that it is a laptop? So because according to Shunyavada, everything is void. So that is why you are also void. So there is nobody to see the void. So everything is void. Like that, Shankaracharya follows a line of argument. That is not what exactly is told by Buddhists. When they say Shunya, they are defining it much like how Advaita Vedantins define Maya. But here Shankaracharya's Bhashya we are seeing. So let us go by what Shankaracharya says. Shunyam iti apare. Shunyam, some people say that it is Shunya. What is Shunya? Brahman is Shunya, or the ultimate reality is Shunya. It is void. Ultimate reality is void. Asti dehadi vyatiriktaha samsari karta bhokta iti apare. So what is Shankaracharya, Bhagavad-pada Shankaracharya doing here? He is trying to make a point by telling how there are so many varying and conflicting views about Brahman. So though people may experientially understand Brahman because it is their self, they may through their experience understand Brahman. But when they want to know its true nature, there are people who sufficiently confuse them. It is like going to a government office. I don't know, even now it is like that. Generally, if you go to a government office, means they will say, earlier they used to do in person, now they do online. That's the only difference I see. So they will say, if you go to one department, they'll say, oh, no, not this department, that table. If you go to that table, that person will say, no, not this table. Then if you go to one table, they will say, you have not brought that form. Some form, they have so many forms. And there are so many exams to know about which form is used for what. And then that person. So earlier it was all done in person. Actually, you could see some person and tell, please help me. Now it is all done online. Even that cannot be done. So you are directed from one place to another. And no government employee will tell you all things what are necessary in the beginning itself. They will wait. When you are not submitting some form, they'll say, oh, you have not submitted this form. Now you submit this form. Then you submit that form, they'll say, oh, that form should have been submitted also, like that. So here also, regarding the true nature of Brahman, it is like that. Someone is saying something, another fellow is saying something. So poor people are totally confused. What is this Brahman? Also, that is why they are confused about Brahma Sutra also. Some people are saying it is very Most people are saying it's very difficult to understand. So, Baba, what is this Brahma Sutra? Oh, very difficult, like that. Because of conflicting opinions. So there are these people. Now, when these people means here, Mimamsakas, and means Mimamsaka means people who follow the philosophy of Jaimini, called Mimamsa, Purva Mimamsa. So what do they say? They say, they and Nayayikas, that is Nyaya philosophy of Gautama, and Vaisheshika, Kannada philosophy, Kannada Muni's philosophy of Vaisheshika. All of them, what they say, they say, Asti Dehadi Vyatiriktaha. Vyatiriktaha, separate from Deha Adi. Deha Adi means, Deha means body, then Prana, then mind, all that. So there is Vyatiriktaha, separate from body, mind, etc. Samsari. Samsari means one who is constantly born and dies. Transmigrating being. A being is there who is separate from this body. So this is very important. You see, till now, nobody is emphasizing on the separateness of the body. That body is not your true nature. Earlier, what Prakritaha or materialists, what do they say? They say body with consciousness is your true nature. And among Prakritaha, there are two groups. Some people say sense organs is your true nature. Some other people say mind is your true nature. But it is the first time, then Vijnanavadis, they say it's all in the flux, it's all momentary. Then there is Shunyavadis, they say it's all Shunya. What is Shunya? God only knows. And so we don't care to know. So this is all Shunya, like that. So then this is the first time that Vaisheshika and Nayayika and Mimamsaka, these people, they say that Dehadi Vyatiriktaha Samsari. So your true nature is not this body, mind, prana, etc. It is different from that. And Karta Bhokta, and you are the doer and you are the enjoyer. That is where they differ from Advaita Vedanta. They say that you are the doer, you are the enjoyer. That is your true nature. You are the person who is the agent. It is through your agency that you are doing things. Your agency means you are the person who is doing things and you are the enjoyer or the experiencer. Iti apare, like that some people tell. Who tell that? That is what I just said. Vaisheshika, people who follow Vaisheshika philosophy. Nayayikaha means people who follow Nyaya philosophy. And Mimamsakaha, people who follow Mimamsa philosophy. These three philosophical schools say that what is your true nature? It is of transmigratory existence, and you are the agent and you are the experiencer. Then there is another school which says Bhokta eva kevalam na karta. They say that no, you are just the enjoyer. You are not the doer. So the first school, the most ancient philosophical school called Sankhya, started or propounded by Kapila Muni, that says this, that you are just you are Purusha, you are just the enjoyer. You are not the doer. You are not the doer. You are just experiencing this or you are witnessing this. Bhokta eva kevalam, na karta iti eke. Also, yoga also says that. Yoga and Sankhya, these two philosophies, hold this view that the true nature of a person is of bhokta, experiencer, not doer or not agent. Then finally, asti tad vyatiriktaha ishvaraha sarvajnaha sarvashaktihi iti kechit. There are some other people who say that tad vyatiriktaha, different from what you consider yourself to be your true nature, that is being an agent being an enjoyer, etc. Different from that, there is some other tad vyatiriktah, some other thing, Ishvaraha, which is called Ishvara. So different from your being enjoyer, bhokta, because just before that, Shankaracharya said, bhokta eva kevalam na karta. So your true nature is that you are an enjoyer. That is what Sankhya and Yoga philosophies say. You are not the agent, you are just the experiencer or the enjoyer. Different from that enjoyer, tad vyatiriktam means tad bhokta vyatiriktam. Different from that enjoyer or experiencer, there is vyatiriktah, different, Ishvaraha, there is Ishvara, Lord. Now this word Lord is used in many contexts, Lord, but Ishvara means, that is the closest translation in English. Ishvara means that one who has a complete power, complete sovereignty, complete rule of a thing. That is Ishvara. Sarvagyaha Sarvashaktihi. And what kind of Ishvara? One who is omniscient. Sarvagyaha. One who knows everything. One who knows everything. Sarvagyaha. Sarvashaktihi. One who is omnipotent. One who is powerful in all ways, all manner. Iti kechit. Like that some people say. So some people are saying that you are the bhokta, you are the experiencer, but other than the experiencer also, there is a principle and it is called the Ishvara. And what is Ishvara? It is omniscient and omnipotent. It is omniscient and omnipotent. That some people say. Atmasa bhoktuhu iti apare. And also, so this some people are actually Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Patanjali Yoga Sutra, there are two schools. One school which believes that Patanjali said that there is Ishvara, and another school which believes that Patanjali did not mention Ishvara, etc. Though he says Ishvara Pranidhanatva. There are differing interpretations about that. So that school who believe of the existence of Ishvara, who believe the existence of Ishvara. And here, Atmasa bhoktuhu iti apare. Some other people, iti apare, some other people, they believe that Atmasa bhoktuhu, that the self is the experiencer. Self means Atma, Brahman is the experiencer. Apare, when he says apare, Shankaracharya actually means his own standpoint, his own belief, his own standpoint. That is the standpoint of Advaita Vedanta. That is the standpoint of Advaita Vedanta. So he says, Evam Bahavo Vipratipannaha Yukti Vakya Tad Abhasa Samashrayaha Santaha. So Evam Bahavaha Vipratipannaha. So Evam, in this manner, Bahavaha, many, Vipratipannaha, having contradictory views. Vipratipannaha, having contradictory views. Yukti Vakya Tad Abhasa Samashrayaha. So, how these contradictory views are coming? Because of wrong Yukti Vakya Tad Abhasa Samashrayaha. Wrong interpretations. That is fallacious logic. Wrong logic. Fallacious logic. And also distorting the meaning of the scriptural text. Swamiji uses a word, he uses a phrase, text torturing, he says. So if you take the case of Shankaracharya, many places when it is completely devotional meaning comes out from the scriptural text, Shankaracharya goes out of the way to prove that it is not devotional, it is non-dualistic, it is Advaitic. So more than Shankaracharya, other schools are also there, where it is completely non-dualistic. The text is, for example, Ekameva Advitiyam. It is very simple. It is only one, not two. But those people, to prove the point that no, everything is bhakti, they will go out of the way to prove that this is also relating to Dvaita philosophy. So that kind of an attempt, Swamiji, he critiques this type of behavior, and he says everything is said in the Vedas, and whatever you want, you take, but don't try to torture the text. That means try to bring out your own meaning from the text. So he calls it text torturing. That is what Shankaracharya is telling here, that some people, they bring so many conflicting views. There are so many, some views have been told here in this manner. There are so many conflicting views which are brought about by distortion of the scriptural text or by wrong logic. By wrong logic. There is one interesting book, Rolf Dobelli, written by a person called Rolf Dobelli. R-O-L-F-D-O-B-E-L-L-I. Is a French thinker. He has not written many books, but he is a French thinker. And he has written a book, The Art of Thinking Clearly. It has got 99 chapters. And it's a small book. And each chapter will be in that small book, maybe a couple of pages or maybe 3 pages. But it's an extraordinary book. In that book, he shows us how we think we are being logical, but many times we are not logical. There is a fallacy in logic. So 99 instances he gives us where it is fallacious logic. So logic is something which we think we are very logical, but actually we are not. It is very easy to be illogical. It's very easy to be illogical. So that is what here Shankaracharya is telling us, that it is because of lack of logic or because of distortion of the text. Text itself is distorted or logic has been given up. Because of that, we find that there are different vipratipannaha. There are different types of conflicting views are there. Conflicting views are there. And so that is why it is necessary to have the desire to know Brahman. Now, when there are conflicting views, then automatically one wants to know what is the reality. All these views cannot be true. Only one of them can be true. So what is the reality? So how is it that only one of them can be true? Experientially speaking, subjectively speaking, it can be only one which can be true. So for me, only one can be true. For some other person, some other meaning, some other view might be true. For example, if we take any food, either the food will taste in a particular manner, whether I will like it or I will not like it. That is what will happen if I am going to eat a particular dish, food. Why? Because it is my subjective experience. But it might not be so for another person. That person may dislike what I like, but that is that person's experience. So her or his experience is not my experience. Similarly, in this case also, there are so many vipratipannaha, conflicting views. And so these conflicting views have to be analyzed to find out what is my view. What is that which I align with? What is that which goes with my understanding of things? For that, I have to have the desire to know the ultimate truth called Brahman. Tatra avicharya. So tatra, under these circumstances. Circumstances of what? Circumstances of where there are so many conflicting views. There, avicharya, without properly inquiring, without properly investigating, vichara, without properly doing a proper reasoning, exercise in reasoning. Yat kinchit pratipadyamanaha nishreyasat pratihanyeta anartham cha iyat. Yat kinchit, whatever, pratipadyamanaha, a person accepts, nishreyasat. So, if a person accepts a particular view or a particular standpoint about the ultimate reality without doing vichara, without doing inquiry, then that person nishreyasat pratihanyeta. Nishreyasat. Nishreyasa means what? Nishreyasa means attaining the highest truth. That is nishreyasa. So that person will be pratihanyeta. That person will lose this nishreyasa, the path of nishreyasa, the path of attaining the ultimate truth or attaining freedom from suffering. That a person will lose if that person accepts any particular view without properly thinking about that, without properly analyzing that view, without properly inquiring that view or investigating that view. It is like the condition of medicines. If you take a very common medicine, paracetamol. Paracetamol is available at various prices, various brands. That's why this whole concept of generic medicine came. That medicine is available. Why these brands and marketing, etc.? So they charge such rate. And their effectiveness also changes. It is not that it's only the price which changes or the brand which changes. If, for example, somebody has fever and you give a particular paracetamol and nothing happens to that person, but you buy some other paracetamol and you give and immediately that person is cured. So there is an interesting incident there. One of our monks, he is a doctor. So when he was studying in the medical college, he told me this incident. It's an interesting incident. So in medical college, towards the end, you have to do what is called as the residentship. So then usually such people are posted in emergency, all these jobs which other people don't want to do, trauma care, everything, everywhere they are put. So emergency duty is going on in a government medical college. So suddenly they got a patient who had huge, what is it called? Sugar level, glucose level, huge, high glucose level was there. And to maintain that patient, they had to bring down the glucose level to normal. So that cannot be done by giving pills, etc. at that time. So they had to inject insulin. And they are injecting insulin, but nothing is happening. That person's glucose level is there. Nothing is happening. It is like karmani eva adhikarahate ma phaleshu kadachana. It's not bothered about results. It's simply staying there. And so they are confused. So that person called this, who is now a monk, this doctor, and because they are all hostel mates, so they called, hey, this has happened. What should I do? Now, what should I do? Do you know? Do you have any idea? So he immediately asked, where did you get this insulin? So he said, he got it from medical store. He said, no. Ask the patient party to buy insulin from the opposite shop. They bought the insulin and gave, immediately the blood sugar came down. It's a testimony to the condition of government hospitals. Now the pharmaceutical company knows that this insulin is going to be supplied to the government hospital. So there will be no insulin, only water will be there. And so nothing will happen. So this doctor immediately, he had it in mind, hey, you get it from the shop and they save that patient's life. That is what will happen if yatkinchit, whatever comes, pratipadyamana hai, whatever comes, that if pratipadyamana hai, if it is accepted, then that person will pratihanyeta, lose nishreyasa. That person will be going away from nishreyasa. So you cannot, without discrimination or discernment, you cannot just take whatever is given to you. Anartham chayat. Because of that, anartham, danger or big tragedy or evil will iyat. One would fall prey to, or one will become a victim of evil. Why? Because then you are not following what is supposed to be followed. Why? Because you have not properly analyzed the things that are available to you. So then Shankaracharya says, Tasmat, therefore, Brahma Jigyasa Upanyasa Mukhena Vedanta Vakya Mimamsa Tad Avirodita Avirodi Tarka Upakarana Nishreyasa Prayojana Prastuyate. Therefore, because of this logic which I have given just now, Brahma Jigyasa Upanyasa Mukhena. Mukhena, by introducing Brahma Jigyasa, by introducing Upanyasa. Upanyasa means explanation. By introducing this explanation with Brahma Jigyasa, with the words Brahma Jigyasa, that is the desire to know Brahman, Vedanta Vakya Mimamsa. Mimamsa means analysis or inquiry of Vedanta Vakya. Vedanta means Upanishads. Vakya means sentences. So an inquiry or an analysis of the sentences of Upanishads or Upanishadic sentences, and Tad Avirodi Tarka Upakarana, by the means or the instrument of Tat Avirodi Tarka. Tad means that Vedanta Vakya, the Vedantic sentences, Avirodi, that which is not opposite to it, that which is not contradicting it. That means that which is supporting it. It's a negative way of saying that which is supporting it. So, using tarka or reason or logic that supports the statements which are told in the Upanishads. And Nishreyasa Prayojana. Also, what is Nishreyasa? Nishreyasa is getting rid of suffering. That means moksha. And Prayojana. Prayojana means the purpose. Why should somebody analyze Vedanta Vakya? Why should somebody analyze Vedantic sentences or do the Mimamsa, analysis of the meaning of Vedantic sentences to get Nishreyasa, to get moksha? So moksha is given as its prayojana, purpose or aim. Prastuyate, it is being started. So here Shankaracharya says, you see, it's all right. We all experience Brahman as our own self. But then there are conflicting opinions about it. Like you go to a doctor, I have pain in my lower abdomen. No, I don't have, I'm just saying, suppose I have pain in the lower abdomen. I go to the doctor and somebody says, oh, if the doctor is endocrinologist, then the doctor will say something else. If the doctor is urologist, the doctor will say something else. Gastroenterologist, that person will say something else. Finally, everybody will say that it belongs to that particular organ of which that person is a specialist. So what happens? I have so many medical reports and yet my pain has not come down. So I have to first understand whether this person is doing anything to subside, to reduce the pain. Does my pain subside? If it does not, then whatever ologist that person is, I have to simply move on. I have to go to some other specialist. Okay. So finally, then if I do like that, my pain will go and I will die because of poverty. That is a different thing. But that pain will go anyway. So that's analysis has to be done. Vedanta Vakya Mimamsa. Like that, like medicine, we have to do this Vedanta Vakya Mimamsa. And why we have to do? Because that is the goal. Nishreyasa is the goal of Vedanta. And that is also the goal of the study of Brahma Sutra, or the goal of the desire to know Brahman. Why should somebody know Brahman? Because the goal is to get rid of suffering. Atyantika dukkha nivritti, complete cessation, complete getting rid of suffering, complete getting rid of suffering. It is possible. That is why when Girish Chandra Ghosh went to Sri Ramakrishna, he asked, you see, I drink so many brands. liquor. In one of his talks, Swami Ranganathanandaji Maharaj was the 13th president of the Ramakrishna Math and Ramakrishna Mission. He gives an interesting analogy. He says, spiritual. He says, a person became spiritual. How? Spirit went inside that person. Spirit means alcohol. That went inside that person. So it was very spiritual, highly spiritual. So if you go to mountains, you can see many people highly spiritual. Also in the state of Kerala, also it's a spirit is a very great problem, spiritual problem. Everybody is highly spiritual. So this high spirituality, this incident he talks about there, that comes, and that spiritual, how that is coming, because atyantika dukkha nivritti. So that is a way of finding some kind of respite from the suffering. That is why Swami Vivekananda's father, he says that when Narendranath Datta, as a young man, he was saying that these people I don't like, they all drink so much. So Swamiji's father, he gave a different perspective. He said, we cannot find so much fault in them. If by drinking little, they can forget their suffering for some time at least. If they can forget their suffering. So Vishwanath Datta gave this advice. So don't judge them because they are trying to forget their suffering. And that is what they do. And so Girish Chandra Ghosh, he said, you see, I drink so many brands I am drinking. Foreign, Desi, they say. No? Desi means country. And then Videshi means foreign, means from abroad. But I am not getting that bliss which you are getting. What is the brand? Your brand, you tell me. So Sri Ramakrishna says, yes, I have also got a brand. I will tell you that is a separate brand I have got. That brand, if you drink, means you will be always in bliss. There is a song, Surapan Korini Ami, Sudha Khai Shri Kali Bole. So I don't drink alcohol, Sura. I take the nectarine name of Shri Kali. So always, I'm always in an inebriated state. I'm always drunk. So that is the goal, to get rid of suffering. Now, if you can do it, you do it in such a way that you will always be in bliss. It is possible. Always be in bliss. This drinking cannot give you always bliss. When you are, so you will be always truthful and always blissful. Drink also will give you blissful and truthful condition, but only for some time. When that intoxication wanes away, then this you will neither be blissful nor truthful. The hangover will be there. When hangover is there, you will be very guilty. That's all will happen. But neither bliss will be there nor truthfulness will be there. So how to get truthfulness? Patanjali in his Yoga Sutra says that what is it called? Oshadi. He uses the word Oshadi, means using different drugs one can. So people have tried so many types of drugs. They are called psychedelics. Psychedelics means it will change the way you look at the world. Everything will, suddenly you will find yourself in a cartoon movie, animated movie. A person's nose becomes like this, very long nose. Eyes become like that, etc. But does that sustain? No, it does not. It weakens your nervous system. It weakens your body and you cannot sustain that. So that is also not sustainable. And people, there are so many things people do. There is something, a herb called Ayahuasca. So if you go to Peru and all many South American countries, people go there and there are these shamans. And shamans means witch doctors like that. What they do, they give this herb, Ayahuasca. And it's in high demand, this therapy. So people eat it. And after eating it, or they make a potion kind of thing and drink it. And then they are given buckets. What do they do with the buckets? They simply vomit. Liters of vomit they do. And they have so much visions they have. Afterwards, what happens? Nothing. You started an ignorant and you return as an ignorant. There's no qualitative change. So that is not what happens here. This method of vichara, of reasoning it out, of discerning, it will lead to nishreyasa. It will truly lead to moksha. And if this is not done, then even the Upanishad says, Atma Hano Janaha. It's like killing oneself. It's a suicide. What is suicide? Not knowing your true nature is suicide. If you are not able to know your true nature, then you are killing yourself by not knowing your true nature, by thinking that you are this puny body, mind, prana, intellect, and also that particular joy which you get when you interact with sense objects. If you think that you are that, you will not get your true nature. And by losing your true nature or losing your knowledge of your true nature, you are actually dying. Atma Hano Janaha. So that is what the Upanishad says. So it's a spiritual suicide. And so here Shankaracharya says, you see, that which is eluding us, we constantly experience it, but we are unable to put a point to it. They're like many people say, I know what it is, but I'm not able to put my finger on it. So why are you not able to put finger? Because of lack of clarity. Because of lack of clarity. So Brahma Sutra, why it is necessary? Because to bring clarity. To bring clarity. And what are these differing opinions? Though Shankaracharya presented them as opinions of different schools of thoughts, different philosophical schools, in reality, they are opinions of a same person. A same person goes through these different understandings in one lifetime. It happens. First, you begin with no belief. You don't think that there is something other than, see, when a child is born, where does the child all day eating, sleeping, and then the child is urinating and defecating. That's all. Other people have to clean. Huggy and all that they have to put. So the child is constantly in that kind of a state. It's all thinking of ahara and nidra only. And not maithuna, but it is thinking of excretion. That is the child. Then slowly you get some idea. Then, oh, maybe this is not. Maybe I have to think. I have to speak. That is maybe some kind of a cognitive ability I have to develop. That is what human being is. Then you understand, oh, that is not, maybe something else is there. Then somebody, you believe in somebody and that somebody stabs you in the back. Metaphorically, not literally. Sometimes metaphorical stab is much powerful, more powerful than the literal stab. So then you feel that, oh, dost na raha, pyar na raha. Then suddenly you get this idea that no, there is something other than this body. Like that. So within a lifetime, you go through all these philosophical understandings. And so that is how this whole entire gamut of Indian philosophy, Bharatiya Darshana, is like that. It is such a well-construction that at one point you think, oh, mind is necessary, mind we have to train. Then suddenly you think, no, there is scripture. What do Mimamsakas do? They spend a lot of time in finding out the meaning of the Vedas. So you go, oh, there is scripture and I have to find out the meaning. I have to understand things. Finally, you understand that all this will not lead you to the goal. And that is Vedanta. You have to yourself realize your true nature. So that is why it is necessary. It is, of course, Brahman is the jigyasya. Brahman is the object of inquiry, object of the desire to know. Why? Because if you know that, only then you will get nishreyasa. And so it cannot be ignored. So that is why we are unable to, though we experience it, we are unable to understand it. And it's like love. You experience it, but you are unable to understand it. Nobody has understood. So that is why we have to understand it. And there he ends, Shankaracharya ends his commentary on the first sutra. That is Athato Brahma Jignasa. So after that, thereafter, Ataha, therefore, the desire to know Brahman. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Do we have any questions?
Thank you, Maharaj. Yes, I do have a question. Going back a few objections earlier, I'm just trying to understand. what motivated this objection also? And this is the Karmani Shashti Parigrahi.
Karmani Shashti, you see, Brahma Jignasa. So the verb Jignasa, if its object is, that is in karma sense, if you take this Shashti Vibhakti, so its object will be Brahma. It will be straightforward connection. Brahma will be the object of Jignasa. So there you cannot introduce any other thing. But if it is taken as Shesha Sheshi Sambandha, in that sense also in grammar it can be taken. If it is taken in that sense, then Jignasa need not be of only Brahman, it can be of other things also. Among other things, Brahman. So then Mimamsaka can easily say that first you study Dharma, then you go to Brahma. So first Dharma Jignasa, then Brahma Jignasa. And then in Mimamsa, Vedoshara Vedanta, that is what Mimamsakas say. We will see it in the successive sutras. Veda Ushara. Ushara means desert, barren land. In Sanskrita, Ushara means barren land. So according to Mimamsakas, the Mimamsa philosophy, Vedanta or Upanishads are like barren land in Vedas. Why? Because they don't ask you to do anything. They don't propel you to perform any action. So the hidden motive of Mimamsaka to say that why don't you take this in the meaning of Sesha Sheshi Sambandha is to say that even then, that is how that objection was posited or brought about. That even then the Brahma will also be the object of desire to know, Jignasa. It will be the object of Jignasa, even if you take it like that. But there the problem is, then finally the Mimamsaka will say, okay, first you know Dharma, then you know Brahma. Once you know Dharma, then the point is that what is Dharma? Dharma is the thing which propels you to do an action. It is that which propels you to do an action. And so if something does not propel you to do an action, that is not Dharma. And so it does not have any meaning in Vedas. Like that, the logic will come. And then Vedanta, you don't need to study Upanishads because they are just waste of time, because they are not propelling you to do anything. So though the first logic was first you study Dharma, or first you have the desire to know Dharma, then eventually in that order you will have the desire to know Brahman. But when somebody studies Dharma, it will be proved that it is not necessary to study Upanishads at all. So when there is, like, it is like saying somebody wants to say, young child wants to eat ice cream. Okay. And then you somehow find that that person may have a tendency to catch cold or some flu, etc. So you don't want to give ice cream to that person. So what do you say? Hey, don't take ice cream, you take chocolate. Chocolate also is good like ice cream only it is. Or you can take chocolate, then you can take ice cream. So that kind of a circular logic, that kind of a circuitous logic was what proposed by Mimamsa school or Mimamsaka. But Shankaracharya posited it and then he saw through that logic. Of course, he only is bringing that objection and he is countering it. But that is the idea. Did it help you, Mangesh ji? Mangesh ji, can you hear me? You are muted. You are muted. You are muted.
Yes, yes. Yes, thank you, Maharaj. Yes, now that you also mentioned that Shesha Sheshi, the part and whole, that applies to Shashti, correct?
No, not exactly their part and the whole. Residual relationship. Residual means one among many, like that. When you say subject object or verb object, it is directly connected. Here it is one among the many.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you. That helped.
Is there any other question?
Pranam Maharaj.
Namaste.
This is Rohit from Bangalore. So, Maharaj, my question is, can you explain deeply what is surrendering to Lord is? What is taking refuge in His feet is? Just like in Gita, we read that Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Saranam Vraja. So, can you explain it? And where does the discrimination holds then? Yeah.
So when you know that there is God, you have no doubt about that. And then you stop thinking of your welfare. Your yoga and kshema. That means accumulating things or getting things for you, like food or clothing, shelter, etc. You are not trying to get those things. And also whatever you have, you are not trying to maintain them. Because you know that Lord is there and Lord is there, that's all. So you don't need to do all these things. That is true surrender. When you have no idea of being a karta, you know that Jemni chalao, temni choli. Means as you make me do, I do. But it should be completely true. It should not be hypocritical. Many people say this and then they do all sorts of things. Not like that. You should not do anything. That is surrender. So simple, no, Rohitji? It's very simple.
Yeah, it's so. What do you mean by not do anything? So isn't it that, as you have mentioned, as you have explained, that it is simple, as in when we are convinced that Lord exists, and then, as you said, there is no accumulating action. Like this kartapan is not there. That I have to maintain something, or I have to accumulate something so that for future, for survival. Let's say survival. So if that is not there, but still this body will work like this, there will be some thoughts, as in there will be some actions. So what do you mean by there will be no actions?
And I mean that no actions.
Yeah. Okay. So no actions, like completely absorbed, because yeah, if Lord exists, what else to do, right?
So you don't do anything. No actions means you don't, there is no exercise of will. That is complete surrender. You don't exercise your will because you know that everything is God's will, not your will. So it will be difficult to understand because of ego. Because now that ego is that I am such and such person. So that ego is there. So it will be difficult to understand. But when the ego completely goes away, then there is no will. You will not have any will. You'll just, it's like often this complete surrender is compared to a dry leaf. Dry leaf. So the dry leaf goes with the wind. Wherever the wind takes it, it goes. It does not have any power. When the leaf is not dried, when it is attached to a tree, wind blows and it stays strong. It is holding on to the tree.
Okay. Okay, Maharaj. So if it is not easy to understand, so let's change, let's modify the question. Then how to achieve this surrendering to Lord?
Why is not easy to understand?
No, as you said,
what is the difficult thing about?
No, not chemical. It's like
no, not chemical. I'm saying what is the difficulty here? What is the difficult thing about that?
So the difficult thing is, see, as you said, there will be no will. There will be no individual will, the ego, as you mentioned. But then at that
point, it's not difficult to understand. It might be difficult to practice.
Okay. So how to achieve this surrendering to Lord?
By constantly trying to discipline or train your mind, your sense organs. So while training the sense organs like that, see, one cannot have both things. One cannot have the world and also God, both. You cannot have your legs on two boats. You will drown, or you will at least fall into water. If you know swimming, you can come out, but you will not be able to stay dry. So that is what most people think. They think that God is there. God will help me to, become successful in life, have a lot of prosperity, have much money, etc. That is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's all about belief. Now, somebody believes that money is the solution to all problems. Most people, almost all people believe that, and so they are running after money. But if you believe that God is the only thing which matters, then such questions themselves will not arise. That is the problem. The difficulty is here. It's a faith crisis. It's a problem of faith, trust.
Okay.
You believe your mobile phone more than God. Let us face it.
Yeah. So because success is knowing Brahman, right?
Huh?
So success is knowing Brahman, like this adhyasa when it goes, which is not there.
Success means one has to constantly do vichara. One has to constantly reason. Will this body be always there? Will this mind, is the mind always in the same state? No, it is not. The prana, now corona, it has affected the prana. People can't breathe. Lungs are becoming ineffective. Even people who are treated after corona, it's very difficult for them to regain their original capacity. So the volume of air one can hold, all that has changed now after corona infection. So that person is no more the earlier self. So that means prana is also changing. Prana always changes. You don't have food for 3 times, your prana will go away like anything. So prana is changing, mind is changing, body is changing, intellect, of course, it is changing. The faculty of joy is also changing. The level of plane of joy is changing. You get something, you are joyful. When you don't get, you are sorrowful. So one has to constantly do this vichara. That means I am not this, etc. So once you do that vichara, you know that sense objects will not give you fulfillment. But now do you know that? That's the question. What are you seeking? Say 24/7, what do you seek? You are seeking sense objects. Then how do you think you will attain that knowledge of Brahman? It will not come by study or by intellectual exercises. Intellectual exercises will not lead to the knowledge of Brahman. It's very depressing thought for Rohit, I understand, but that is the truth.
Yeah. Thank you, Maharaj. Pranam.
Don't get depressed too much. It's possible to attain.
Yes.
Okay. You have to try. You have to start doing it.
Thank you, Maharaj.
What do you do, Rohit?
So I'm a student, Maharaj.
Okay. So what do you study?
I'm doing doctorate. In field of transportation engineering.
In which discipline?
Transportation engineering, civil engineering.
Transportation engineering. Where from are you doing doctorate?
Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore.
Transportation engineering. What is the title of your research?
The title is related to sustainable transportation planning and policy.
It is not the title. That cannot be the title of a research.
Yeah, it's field. So title is evaluating sustainable transport measures towards fulfilling sustainable development goals.
Sustainable development.
Goals, yeah.
Sustainable development goals. Good. Any other question? No question. Okay. So we'll end it today here. Smriti, any questions?
No, Swamiji. I had one similar to what he asked, but you already gave the answer. So.
Okay, what similar? How similar?
No, Swamiji was just wanted to ask, like even the final goal of Bhakti Marga also is like you lose yourself out and you're so full of God that it's the same as realizing Brahman, right? So.
Going from the finite to the infinite, that is spirituality. Going from the finite conception of ourself to the infinite conception of ourself. So now I'm thinking I'm this body, mind, etc., which is bound. I am finite. From there, I understand that I am infinite. I am not this body, not this mind. I am not even a particular space or not even a particular time. I am beyond all this. I am Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi. Why? Why am I thinking? Because nothing changes in me. That is my true nature. Not this body, mind, which is all changing. So that when one realizes. So a bhakta will realize in a different manner. I am not this body and the mind. That also, bhakta will also say that. I am the child of God and nothing happens to me. So when the body dies, I don't die. When the mind is not there, I am not going away. I'm always there because I am the child of God. Like that. So the nomenclature is different, but the effect is the same.
Swamiji, like you mentioned, like perceiving infinite, right? So how can a finite mind perceive an infinite thing?
Now, that is the problem of our way of thinking. We think through medium. So that is why you don't perceive in that sense. It's not a mediate perception. You become that. You don't perceive the infinite. You become the infinite. Now, how can somebody become the infinite? Because you already are the infinite.
Okay.
You already are the infinite. Okay. So only now we don't realize that. So then you suddenly, like these spectacles, people put on and then they forget. Where is my spectacle? It actually happens. In primary class, I had studied this. Then I used to think how dumb a person would be to. It has happened to me many times now. So now I know that, oh, it happens. It happens. When you are constantly wearing it, sometimes you will confuse, oh, where are my spectacles? Then you understand it is just there, right on your nose. So similarly, we are infinite. So it's not something which you, that which is very close to you is difficult to perceive. Right? We don't hear our heartbeat, do we? We don't. So that which is very close to you, it's very difficult to perceive. That's what is happening here. So we don't perceive it through a medium. We perceive it by becoming it, which we already are, or by removing the distraction. When you remove the distraction, we are unable to hear heartbeat, correct? But if you go to a place like Mayavati, Advaita Ashrama Mayavati in Uttarakhand, there is so much silence. In the daytime, you can hear your own heartbeat. So first time when I heard, I thought I have got some palpitation or something. That was perfectly normal, but you can hear that. Because the distractions have been removed. The ambient noise has been removed. So you hear. Similarly, the distractions which are covering our true nature are removed. and then you understand, or it's not through any medium. Aparokshanubhuti. It is immediate perception. So you perceive without any medium. You just be yourself and you understand that you are the infinite. That is
okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so
I have one question.
yeah.
Satya Prakash over here. All this talk of suffering is due to the thoughts going on in the mind, feelings and thoughts. So supposing we want to remove the suffering, should we do it by the discrimination? And if yes, then how do we discriminate viveka? So how do we remove the suffering?
No, first of all, it's not just a talk of suffering, okay? It's something people experience. Why do you say it is a talk of suffering?
No, because people talk, that's why. In general, people have suffering, yes.
No, I don't understand this, the way you are putting it. You are saying people have suffering. Don't you have suffering?
Yes, of course, even I have suffering.
So why are you trying to make it something other than yourself? It's your experience. It's a subjective experience. It's not, if I say you talk of suffering, it's, don't you think it's a very, what to say, a very insensitive way to put it? Because you are suffering, okay? It's not just a talk, it is an experience. You experience suffering, okay? Now the question is, whether by doing viveka, vichara, we can get rid of suffering. By doing viveka, you would not get rid of suffering, but it will become possible for you to know that you are beyond suffering. Did you get that?
Beyond suffering. Can you give an example of this?
Yeah, so for example, no, by doing viveka, you will remove the coverings which are there. You, for example, there is a table. Say, this is one example I like. There's a table which is cluttered. There are many things on the table. You are trying to find out a piece of paper on which you have written some phone number, say. And you are unable to find that piece of paper because it is lost in the clutter of the table. So what do? You arrange the table. You take things one by one and you start arranging it, and eventually you will get that piece of paper. Similarly, something has been superimposed on our true nature. Viveka will help you to remove that. Once you remove that, then your true nature will become visible. Or it's not like you see some object, but you will immediately understand your true nature. And your true nature is beyond suffering. Shokam tarati atmavit. The Chandogya Upanishad says that the person who has known Atman, he transcends that person, he or she transcends shoka or sorrow, goes beyond sorrow. How does one go beyond sorrow? Because then you know that you are not that. You are not sorrow. Say one example I can give. When results come, you have to see the result using roll number. And in many cases, the name is not put. When you search, the name will not come, just roll number and the result will come. In many competitive exams also like that, it happens. So suppose one digit you have mistaken. Instead of in the end 4, you have put 5. And you see that you have failed. So you will be totally shocked. Oh, what happened? But then when you remember that, then when you realize that it is not your result, you are free from suffering. Okay. Did you get that reference?
Yes.
So you are free from suffering. All the time you were thinking that you failed, so you suffered. When you know that it belongs to somebody else, your roll number is something else, and then you know that now you have not failed, your suffering stops. Similarly, when you think that you are this What is your identity? It's all about identity crisis. You think that you are this body, you are this mind, and that is why you suffer. When you know that you are not the body and the mind, then you will not suffer. Simple. And so, vichara will help you to come to the understanding that you are not the body and the mind.
Right, Swamiji.
Thank you. So,
Namaste, Swamiji. Ramakrishna Muddepal here speaking, Swamiji. This question may not be directly related to Brahma Jijnasa as such. It may be Dharma Jijnasa. When you say vichara, it also includes the way we worship our gods and goddesses. For example, now it is said that, in Bhagavadgita, there are so many instances where Lord Krishna has said, Eka Bhakti, then Avyabhichari Bhakti and all that thing. It's also said that Ye Panya Devata Bhakta Yajante Shradhyanita, that verse is there. So when they worship other gods, they are Avidhi Purakam, they are worshipping me only. But then the explanation given is, says that we should also always have this anusandhan that we are worshipping only Parabrahman. They may or may not have any other form. So, but in reality, most of us, we don't have this kind of anusandhana, that we are worshipping Parabrahman only. So this kind of anusandhana while worshipping, does that comes in the realm of this nitya viveka vastu viveka vichara?
Why
That's
in the
one.
Gita itself, Sri Krishna is saying, even if you don't know that you are worshipping, even if they don't know that they are worshipping me, actually their worship reaches me. In that same series of shlokas, Sri Krishna is saying.
But that is not, but he's saying that's not a proper way to do avidhi purvakam.
Whatever it is, but there itself he will say, he's saying that even though they don't know, and even if they are not doing through vidhi, they are worshipping me. Does he say that or not? He's saying.
That's correct, Swamiji. But
even though they don't know that they are worshipping me, still they are worshipping me. So what is the problem?
It's not a problem again, as in the last episode, this thing's a talk. The thing is, should we take this as Parabrahman or should we take him as a Lord Krishna who is saying this? That is basic thing. I mean,
the point is,
yes.
If I am hungry,
yes,
then the question would not be whether I should eat idli or dosa, or whether there should be. You see this, when people go and spend an awful lot of money to eat a 7-course or a 5-course meal, take it from me, they are not hungry. They just want to flaunt their wealth, and they want to talk with people in a good surrounding. That's all. If you are hungry, whatever comes at your hand, you will eat it and you will try to appease your hunger. Okay. So that is the point here. Are you suffering? Are you miserable? Then what? How does it matter whether it's Sri Krishna is saying or Parabrahman is saying, whoever is saying, just you do that and get rid of your suffering.
Okay.
Don't see, spirituality should not become an intellectual exercise. Spirituality is a very visceral. There is a word in English called visceral, V-I-S-C-E-R-A-L. It's a thing which is of the gut, okay, which belongs to, it's a very experiential thing. It should not become an intellectual thing. When you start analyzing, when you start talking fancifully, that is not what is the problem here. Here, dukkham is there and there is a way out of suffering, like Buddha says. So if that is there, then how does it matter? How do you get that way out of suffering? It should not matter.
Right.
It is like that old puzzle people riddle they ask. In an almirah, there is a matchbox, there is a candle, and there is a torch. And suddenly there is power cut. So which one will you take first? Will you take the torch first, or the matchbox, or the candle? Which one will you take first? Ramakrishna ji, which one will you take first?
I did not get it. Torch. Torch or?
In an almirah, 3 things are kept.
Yes. Yes.
A torch, a candle, and a matchbox.
Yes.
And there is power cut. Now, which one will
Yes.
you take first?
I will take the torch.
There is power cut. Darkness is there. Whatever comes to your hand, you will take first.
Yeah, whatever comes to my hand. Yes.
That is the problem, you see. So, if you are suffering, then how does it matter whether it is Sri Krishna or Parabrahma, whatever, whoever is it, you will try to apply it, is it not? When you are having severe headache, so many people, as it is a practice in our country, everyone becomes a doctor. They will come and say, you apply that. We do that.
Correct. Yes.
We apply everything.
Yes.
As long as we don't get rid of headache, we try to do all these things. Somebody says, have tea with ginger, it will go away. Somebody says, put that taila, this taila, all that we do. So the goal is to get rid of suffering. Yena kena prakarena, do it by any means.
Yes, Swamiji. Still we are undergoing that experience, Swamiji. We have still that dichotomy exists. So that's why.
When it becomes intellectual means you are not understanding the gravity of the problem.
Okay.
That is why it is intellectual. The intellectual discussion comes when you don't think it is a problem. So the first step is to realize that it is a problem. It's very much a burning problem. That is why Viveka is necessary. To understand that there is a problem here.
Okay. Thank you, Swamiji.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Any other question? So we can end, no? Smriti, no question.
No, Swamiji, nothing in the chat box also.
Okay then. Okay, namaste. Namaste.